The Malevolent Mirror. In the small town of Hollowbrook, nestled deep within an ancient forest, there stood an old, decrepit mansion. The townspeople whispered tales of a cursed mirror that hung in the mansion's dimly lit hallway. Legend had it that the mirror held the power to create sinister doppelgangers. Late one stormy night, Sarah, an adventurous soul with a penchant for the occult, decided to investigate the rumors. Armed with a flickering lantern, she pushed open the creaking doors of the mansion. Shadows danced and flickered as the wind howled through the trees. Sarah's heart raced as she approached the mirror. Its surface was dark and foreboding, reflecting her trembling figure. Ignoring the unease in her gut, she spoke the ancient incantation she had uncovered in an ancient tome. Lightning illuminated the room, casting eerie glimmers across the mirror's surface. Suddenly, a chilling gust of wind swept through the corridor, extinguishing Sarah's lantern. Panic surged through her veins as she strained to see in the pitch-black darkness. A flicker of movement caught her eye, and she froze. There, in the mirror, stood her doppelganger, a twisted and malevolent version of herself. Its eyes gleamed with malevolence, casting an unsettling grin. Sarah's breath quickened, but before she could react, the doppelganger leaped from the mirror and into the world. The room seemed to darken further, and an eerie silence fell upon the mansion. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She knew she had to escape. She turned and ran, the echo of her footsteps haunting her every step. As she reached the entrance, a voice, cold as ice, whispered in her ear. "You can't escape me, Sarah. I am you, and I am free." Terrified, Sarah fled into the stormy night, rain soaking her to the bone. She sought refuge with the townspeople, but they looked at her with fearful eyes, sensing the darkness that now clung to her soul. Days turned to weeks, and Sarah's life became a nightmare. Her doppelganger haunted her every waking moment, a twisted reflection of her own being, whispering dark thoughts and urging her to commit unspeakable acts. Desperate, Sarah returned to the mansion, determined to undo the curse. She stood before the mirror, her heart pounding. With trembling hands, she recited the incantation once more, this time with an added plea for release. Lightning flashed, and thunder shook the ancient walls. As the mirror's surface began to ripple, Sarah closed her eyes, hoping for salvation. When she opened them, the mirror was clear, reflecting only her own weary face. Relief washed over her, but she knew the darkness would forever linger in the depths of her soul. Hollowbrook would never be the same, and Sarah would forever be haunted by the memory of the malevolent mirror and the evil doppelganger it had birthed. From that day on, the mansion stood as a grim reminder of the horrors that lurked within, and the townspeople would forever speak in hushed tones of Sarah's encounter, warning of the dangers that lie in meddling with the unknown, the fearmonger. In the forgotten town of Grimbridge, nestled amidst desolate moors and shrouded in perpetual mist, there lived a man known only as the fearmonger. He was a spectral figure, a twisted soul, condemned to the shadows for eternity. The fearmonger was a recluse, his face forever hidden beneath a tattered cloak, his eyes gleaming with an unholy light. He fed on fear, drawing sustenance from the terror he instilled in others. He prowled the streets at night, a malevolent wraith seeking out the loneliest souls. One moonless night, Emily, a weary traveler, stumbled upon Grimbridge. She had lost her way in the fog, her footsteps echoing through the desolation. As the clock tower chimed midnight, a bone-chilling howl pierced the air. Emily's heart raced, the sound sending shivers down her spine. Suddenly, a presence emerged from the shadows, the cloak-wrapped figure of the fearmonger. His voice was a venomous whisper, slithering into Emily's ears. "Lost are we? In Grimbridge, fear is the only companion you'll find." Emily's breath caught in her throat as the fearmonger circled her, his presence suffocating. She tried to flee, but the mist seemed to conspire against her, leading her in circles. With each step, her fear grew, and the fearmonger reveled in the feast. Weeks passed, and the fearmonger's malevolence spread like a dark stain across Grimridge. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones of the nightmarish encounters, but they dared not venture out after dark. One fateful evening, William, a brave soul with a heart untainted by fear, arrived in Grimridge, determined to confront the terror that held the town in its icy grip. He sought out the stories, piecing together fragments of truth from trembling lips. Armed with resolve and a lantern that cut through the gloom, William set out to find the fearmonger. As midnight approached, he stood at the heart of Grimridge, a beacon of defiance against the encroaching darkness. The fearmonger emerged, his eyes burning with a hunger that belied his spectral form. But William stood firm, his gaze unwavering. "Your reign of terror ends here," he declared, voice ringing with conviction. The fearmonger hissed, tendrils of shadow writhing around him. The night seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the outcome of this fateful encounter. With a surge of courage, William reached deep into his soul, conjuring a light that rivaled the sun. It spilled forth, engulfing the fearmonger in blinding brilliance. The wraith screamed, vanishing into the very shadows from which he'd emerged. As dawn broke over Grimridge, the mist began to lift, revealing a town no longer shackled by fear. The legend of the fearmonger would live on, a cautionary tale of the darkness that preys on the lonely and the strength that lies within the human spirit. From that day forward, Grimridge would remember William as the one who banished the terror that had plagued their nights, and the fearmonger would become naught but a whisper in the wind, a haunting memory of a time when fear held sway. The Whispering Manor. Once, nestled deep within the foreboding woods, stood an ancient mansion known as Whispering Manor. Its timbers groaned with age and its windows stared out with vacant eyes. Locals spoke of the ominous aura that clung to the place, warning all who dared to venture near. One fateful night, 4 intrepid souls, drawn by morbid curiosity, decided to unravel the mysteries that shrouded the forsaken mansion. Sarah, a fearless skeptic, David, an avid historian, Emily, a thrill-seeker, and Mark, the cynic who scoffed at superstition, formed their unlikely quartet. As the moon hung low, casting eerie shadows upon the overgrown path, they stood before the creaking gates of Whispering Manor. David, clutching his flashlight and a tattered map, led the way, his footsteps echoing through the desolate halls. The air grew thick with a palpable tension, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching their every move. A spectral chill seemed to snake its way up her spine, but she dismissed it as mere nerves. Rooms revealed themselves, each more sinister than the last. Dust-laden portraits gazed down, their subjects' eyes seeming to follow their intruders. Cobwebs clung to forgotten relics, and faded wallpaper whispered forgotten tales. Suddenly, a distant moan echoed through the manor, chilling their blood. Mark, ever the skeptic, tried to scoff it off as the wind, but the room seemed to close in around them. Emily's laughter turned to a nervous giggle, and even David's scholarly confidence waned. As they delved deeper, the shadows grew darker, and the air grew colder. The walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, as though they held the secrets of countless lost souls. Sarah's skepticism wavered, replaced by an insidious sense of dread. The staircase loomed ahead, its steps groaning beneath the weight of their uncertain feet. Mark, emboldened by a stubborn resolve, climbed first, dismissing the other's hesitation. But as he reached the landing, he vanished into thin air, his scream swallowed by the oppressive silence. Emily's eyes widened in terror, and David's map trembled in his grasp. Sarah's heart raced, her breath shallow. They turned to flee, but the doorway they had entered through had disappeared, replaced by a solid wall of stone. Panicked, they retraced their steps, each corridor twisting and warping, leading them further into the abyss. Whispers danced through the air, faint yet suffocating. Shadows twisted and contorted, forming ghastly reached out with skeletal fingers. Hours turned to days, but time lost all meaning in the haunted labyrinth. Sarah and David, now haggard and hollow-eyed, knew they were forever trapped within the malevolent clutches of Whispering Manor. Their screams joined the chorus of tormented souls, their existence forever entwined with the house that devoured them. And so, the legend grew. Locals spoke of the cursed souls who dared to enter, their voices forever lost to the walls. The air around Whispering Manor grew even colder, and its shadows even darker, as if absorbing the essence of those who had succumbed to its malevolence. The mansion stood, a silent sentinel, waiting for the next unwitting souls to join its wretched chorus of the damned, the haunting echoes. Once nestled deep within the gnarled woods, there stood a forsaken town known as Whispering Hollow. Its eerie reputation spread like wildfire among the locals, and even the bravest souls dared not approach. It was said that once you set foot within its boundaries, escape became an elusive dream. One moonless night, a lone traveler named Samuel, driven by curiosity and guided by a strange compulsion, ventured into the desolation of Whispering Hollow. The town lay in sepulchral silence, the only sound being the echo of his footsteps against the cobblestones. As Samuel delved further, he could sense the atmosphere grow colder and the air heavier. Shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and the dilapidated buildings seemed to leer at him with their empty windows. It was as though the very town was waiting, anticipating his arrival. Suddenly, a chill ran down Samuel's spine as he heard a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. The voice was soft and hollow, like a mournful sigh, yet it seemed to emanate from every direction. He strained his ears to listen, but the words were elusive, like forgotten dreams slipping through his fingers. He pressed on, determined to unravel the mysteries that bound this forsaken place. The buildings loomed over him, their walls stained with age and decay. Each step he took seemed to echo louder, reverberating through the empty streets like a haunting requiem. The whispers grew more insistent, their cadence rising and falling like a spectral chant. Samuel could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon him, watching, judging, and beckoning him deeper into the heart of the town. He tried to resist, but an invisible force tugged at his very soul, pulling him inexorably forward. As he reached the town square, he was met with an eerie sight. Shadows danced and swirled, coalescing into ghostly figures that seemed to weep and wail in mournful lament. They were the remnants of the town's lost souls, forever trapped in this spectral purgatory. Desperation gripped Samuel as he realized the cruel fate that awaited him. He pleaded for release, but his voice was drowned by the cacophony of echoes, each whisper an echo of a tortured soul. He was now a prisoner, forever condemned to listen to the haunting voices that permeated the air. Time lost all meaning as Samuel wandered the desolate streets. His mind unraveling in the ceaseless symphony of whispers, he became but another spectral figure, forever bound to the forsaken town of Whispering Hollow. And so, the legend of Whispering Hollow endured, a cautionary tale for those who dared to tempt the boundaries of the unknown. For within its silent streets, the voices of the lost souls echoed for all eternity, a grim reminder of the price one pays for curiosity in the face of the supernatural, the tourist. In the veil of night, under the waning crescent moon, a shadow emerged from the depths of the forgotten woods. It was a figure cloaked in darkness, its form twisting and shifting like the ebb and flow of a sinister tide. It had no name, for it was a presence beyond the realm of the living. This enigmatic entity was known only through the whispers of the haunted. Those who had glimpsed its malevolent silhouette in their darkest hours, it was said to trail behind unsuspecting souls, weaving through the labyrinthine streets like a specter of doom. As the clock chimed midnight, a weary traveler found themselves alone on a desolate road, the oppressive silence broken only by the haunting echoes of their own footsteps. And unbeknownst to them, the dark figure lurked in the periphery, an ever-present specter woven into the fabric of the night. The traveler quickened their pace, sensing an unshakable feeling of dread clawing at their spine. They stole furtive glances over their shoulder, but the figure remained elusive, dancing just at the edge of their vision, taunting their sanity. Every alleyway they turned down, every street corner they rounded, the figure persisted, an embodiment of the traveler's deepest fears. Its presence seemed to grow with each passing moment, relentless pursuer in the inky blackness, frantic and gasping for breath. The traveler finally sought refuge in an old, dilapidated church at the edge of town. Its ancient walls seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy, providing a fragile sanctuary against the encroaching darkness. As they huddled in the pew, the traveler dared to steal one last glance outside. There, standing in the moon's solid glow, was the figure. It lingered, its form contorted and twisted, an ominous reminder of the inescapable fate that awaited within the sanctuary of the church. The traveler felt a brief respite, but the knowledge that the figure still lingered weighed heavily on their soul. They knew they could not stay forever, for the town held no refuge from the relentless pursuit of the dark entity. With trembling limbs, the traveler mustered their courage and stepped back into the night, determined to face the looming shadow head-on. But as they crossed the threshold, they found only emptiness. The figure had vanished, leaving behind a chilling silence that hung in the air like a lingering specter. From that night forward, the traveler bore the indelible mark of their encounter, haunted by the memory of the nameless, relentless figure that stalked the night. They became a living testament to the terrors that lurked just beyond the veil of perception, a cautionary tale for those who dared to venture into the realm of the unknown. The haunting dreamscape. In the small, forgotten town of Ravenswood, nestled amidst ancient forests and shrouded in perpetual mist, there was a legend that whispered through the eerie silence. It spoke of a malevolent force that preyed on the dreams of the unsuspecting, weaving nightmares so vivid and horrifying that they would haunt the dreamer long after waking. As autumn leaves crunched beneath your feet, and the last vestiges of twilight faded, a sense of unease settled over Ravenswood. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously in every shadowed corner. It was said that the nightmares had returned. Sarah, a curious and headstrong young woman, was drawn to the stories. She couldn't resist the lure of the unknown. So she set out to uncover the truth behind the legend, armed with determination and a thirst for knowledge. She delved into dusty archives and pored over ancient tomes, searching for any mention of the malevolent force. One cold, moonlit night, Sarah's investigations led her to an abandoned mansion at the edge of the town. Its rotting timbers groaned with the weight of centuries, and ivy tendrils snaked their way up the decaying walls. As she stepped inside, the air grew thick and oppressive, as if the very walls held their breath in anticipation. In the heart of the mansion, Sarah discovered a hidden chamber, its walls adorned with cryptic symbols and faded tapestries. Among the dust-covered artifacts, she found an old journal that spoke of a curse laid upon Ravenswood centuries ago. It described a malevolent entity, imprisoned within the dreamscape, feeding on the fears of the town's inhabitants. Sarah's heart raced as she read on, realizing the chilling truth. The nightmares had returned, and she alone held the key to stopping them. Armed with newfound knowledge, she resolved to confront the malevolent force and free Ravenswood from its suffocating grip. That night, Sarah ventured into the dreamscape, guided by the ancient incantations she had uncovered. The realm was a swirling maelstrom of darkness, echoing with the anguished cries of trapped souls. She pressed on, her resolve unwavering, determined to face the malevolent force head-on. As Sarah reached the heart of the dreamscape, the ground trembled beneath her feet. Before her stood a grotesque, shadowy figure, its eyes gleaming with malice. It let out a bone-chilling howl, sending ripples of dread through the dreamscape. Summoning every ounce of courage, Sarah recited the incantation, binding the malevolent force within an ethereal prison. The dreamscape convulsed, and the shadows retreated, leaving behind a palpable stillness. When Sarah woke, the mist that had hung over Ravenswood had lifted, and the town seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. The nightmares were gone, But Sarah knew the darkness would always linger. Waiting for another soul to uncover its secrets, she left Ravenswood, carrying with her the weight of the knowledge that some nightmares are too real, too ancient, to be forgotten. And as the years passed, the legend of Ravenswood's haunting dreamscape would be whispered in hushed tones. A cautionary tale for those who dared to seek the unknown.